You finally found the one. Your offer gets accepted and you're already arranging the living room furniture. Then the appraisal comes back low. Now what do you do? Today we're talking about one of the most aggravating and deal-breaking aspects of the house buying process, the appraisal. What it does, how it works, and how unfortunately sometimes it can absolutely kill a deal. Hey, I'm Brian, a realtor in Indianapolis, and I specialize in working with first-time home buyers. And today I am breaking down what is an appraisal, what it means to you in purchasing your house, how it could potentially kill a deal, and where do you go from there. Share this video with someone you know who's looking to buy their first house and maybe just wants to know more about the process. So first of all, what is an appraisal? Well, in most cases, people have to get a loan for a house. If you're paying cash for a house, you might actually waive the appraisal. Some people do that. But if you are getting a loan, then it is the lender who is going to send out an appraiser. Now, you as the buyer, you have to pay for it. And here in the Indianapolis area, that's going to cost you, I would say, anywhere from $400 to $600, depending on who the appraiser is. So the appraiser is going to head out to the house and they're going to do an inspection. Now, don't think of it like a home inspection, because they're not coming in and determining the quality of the house, what works and what doesn't. They are looking for potential value in the house. They're going to go through the house without you there in most cases. Most of the buyers I've ever heard of from other agents, they don't go to the appraisals. So the appraiser is going to be looking for conditions of the house, checking the quality of it. Have things been upgraded? New countertops, new cabinets, maybe new flooring, additions onto the house, whatever. And they're going to be taking that information and using it to compare to other homes in the area of similar characteristics. Homes that are of similar square footage, year built, condition, and had they sold in the last 6 to 12 months. Each appraiser kind of does things differently, and it also depends on how many homes have actually sold in the general area over a certain amount of time. If you're out like in the country, it's going to be harder to find comps because there's probably more land space and fewer homes that have sold because there just aren't as many homes to be sold. If you're in a neighborhood, well, there's a very good chance they're going to be able to find comps in the area that they can use to compare. With that comparison, what they're going to do is they're going to look at, okay, this home sold for this amount of money, and looking at that home and the value that was given to it, did that home have upgrades versus upgrades that are in the home that we're trying to purchase at this point, or not? Based on all the information that they compile from comparable properties and the property itself, they're going to set a value on the house. And I'll say, unfortunately, this is one person's mathematical and guideline-driven estimation of the value of the house. Now, why is this important? Well, the lender is only going to give you a loan for the house up to the value that the appraiser says the house is worth. Essentially, the lender doesn't want to overpay, okay? They want to know what the true value of the house is, again, according to one person, and the loan that they're going to give you is only going to go as high as the appraised value. So in the end, it doesn't necessarily matter what your purchase agreement says, because all of this takes place after you're already under contract. What matters is, what does the appraiser believe the value of the house is? So what happens after the appraisal comes back? Well, if it comes back the same amount as what the purchase agreement says, nothing happens. You move forward towards closing because the loan that you were going to get is going to match what you're under contract for, and all is right with the world. If the appraisal comes back low, then there's a series of things that kind of go into effect. We're going to use the example of a home that is $250,000. That's what your purchase agreement says. And we'll say that the appraised value came back at $240,000. So there's a $10,000 gap. So what I tell my clients is 4 things can happen at this point. Number 1, your buyer's agent, potentially me, is going to contact the listing agent. It's going to say, hey, the appraised value came back $10,000 less. Is your client willing to drop the price? Because again, your loan is going to stop at $240,000 in this example. It doesn't matter that the contract says $250,000. So if the seller is willing to lower the price $10,000, well, then you can close at $240,000 and all is right with the world. Option number 2, the possibility that you as the buyer can pay over that low appraisal. Now that would mean bringing extra money to the closing. You're already on the hook for your down payment. You're on the hook for your closing costs. You're on the hook for any lender expenses. And now you've paid for the inspection. You've paid for the appraisal, probably close to, if not more than $1,000. And now at closing, all of that, you need an extra $10,000 over the top of cash that you need to bring to closing. That can work. And you close at $250,000 as originally agreed to. That's option 2. Option 3, you meet somewhere in between. And notice I did not say necessarily in the middle. So if you have some money, in this case, not $10,000, but maybe you have $500 or potentially $1,000 or $5,000, whatever you may have, if you can tell the seller that you have this amount of money to bring to closing over the low appraisal, and then have them lower it down to that amount. So let's say you could scrounge up $1,000. You get some parents to throw you a little bit of extra money, something like that. So now we're at $241,000. The loan for $240,000, your extra $1,000, $241,000, and then the seller would have to agree to lower the purchase price to $241,000. Boom, you go to closing. Option 4. Nobody does anything. Seller's not willing to drop the price. You're not willing to or able to bring extra cash over the top. You can't meet anywhere in between. The purchase agreement actually says that if financing fails, the deal falls apart. So eventually it kills the deal. And that can happen. You walk away, you should get your earnest money back, and you just move on to buying another house. And now the seller has to put the house back on the market. Really, that 4th scenario is worst for everybody because now the seller has to start completely over, as do you. So let's talk about the other option. The appraisal comes back high. We're going to use the same $250,000 contract here. And let's say it appraises at $255,000. Okay. In my experience, what we do as the buyer's agent, that appraisal is your information. You've paid for it. It belongs to you. So you can give permission for that to be shared with the list agent or not. What happens in most cases is the buyer's agent is going to contact the list agent and say the home appraised at value, which means it's at least $250,000 in this case. They don't necessarily have to know that it's $255,000. They just need to know it's at least $250,000. So where does that benefit you? Well, number 1, we don't have to change. You don't now have to pay more money for the house. It doesn't mean the contract goes up to $255,000. It just means you're still paying $250,000. Now you are buying a home that is valued at $255,000. You're only paying $250,000. You're moving into a house with now $5,000 equity already in place because you've paid less than the actual value of it. The leftover amount is your equity. So this is actually a good thing for you. If the seller were to find out because somebody told them or sent them the information, they could kill the deal because they know now that the value of the house is higher. They could say, we want to renegotiate to $255,000, which you may not be approved for or you may not be willing to pay. And everybody walks away and they put the house back on the market and now they know it's worth more. So that's why we do kind of keep that in check until closing, because at that point all documents and financing is done. Now I had a client who said, if it appraises low, does that matter? Because we've been approved for a higher amount. In this scenario, let's say that they were pre-approved at exactly $250,000. Now it's appraised at $240,000. couldn't we just proceed forward and still get the loan for $250,000? The answer there is no, because like I said, the lender is going to go by the appraised value when they talk about how much money they are lending to you, and they now know the value of the house is only $240,000. They're not going to go over that. So it doesn't matter what your pre-approval says in this scenario, you're not going to get that $250,000 from the lender. So what can you do as the buyer to maybe prepare for an appraisal? The answer is nothing. The appraiser sets up their own visit. They notify your lender of when that's going to happen, and they go out and do it. You're not out there to witness it or be there as a part of it. They're only there for a short time. They're checking all the spaces of the house, doing a walkthrough, looking in the crawl space, the attic, things like that. They're not getting up on the roof, but they're checking the condition of the house. And all you can do, unfortunately, is wait. The appraisal can feel like a buzzkill in the middle of an exciting process. The key thing for you as the buyer is to be prepared for what scenarios could play out depending on which way the appraisal goes. That's where you want to make sure you have a good realtor who knows the system and probably explains that to you ahead of time so that you are prepared for the possibilities that are to come. If you're a first-time buyer in the Indy area and you want someone to walk you through this before it becomes a problem, let me know. I'm here to make this process feel a lot less overwhelming. Let me know if I can be of any assistance to you. Thanks for watching.